Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're joining us today. As a learning environment designer with over 15 years of experience helping young children feel safe, regulated, and ready to learn, I literally cannot wait to dive into this explainer with you. Today, we're going to completely flip the script. We are shifting away from asking, "Oh, is this room nice?" And instead, we're asking a much more powerful question. How does this space actually regulate emotions? Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going to start with our learning objectives, dive into the introduction, unpack what emotional load and the holding space really mean, look at some common mistakes, and then wrap it all up with a quick final exam.
Section 1. Learning Objectives. Your syllabus.
So our goals today are pretty straightforward. By the time we wrap up, you'll be able to explain the hidden mechanics of emotional load, identify the 3 pillars of a holding space, evaluate common design failure modes, and ultimately design spaces that actively support emotional recovery. And hey, I want to emphasize that our focus today is entirely on deep understanding and practical application. We're not doing rote memorization here, no way. We are learning how to actually read the emotional behavior of a room. Moving right along to Section 2, Introduction. What exactly is a calm space?
In plain English, a calm emotional space is a system. It's not just a mood that magically appears by accident, and it's definitely not just a quiet corner. It's an environment that actively works to reduce threat and restore a person's sense of choice. It quite literally changes the sensory and cognitive input your nervous system has to process. Understanding the system, it's the absolute secret to helping parents soothe a meltdown at home, helping teachers settle a noisy classroom, and helping designers build significantly better spaces.
And this idea is brilliantly illustrated by our source text using the analogy of a traditional Beijing courtyard. Think about it. The walls of the courtyard do not magically erase the bustling city outside, right? Instead, they filter it. They create a boundary and a rhythm. And honestly, that is exactly what a well-designed calm space does. It doesn't erase your stress. It merely filters it long enough for your emotional regulation to actually become possible.
All right, let's get into the mechanics. Section 3, Concept. Emotional load.
Now, what's really interesting about this matrix is that it shows exactly how an environment asks our senses to process information. Take a look at the left column. Things like too much sensory input, uncertainty, having no control, forced attention, and threat-like meanings. All of that rapidly increases the pressure on us. But on the right side, we see the antidote: clear input, predictable cues, choice, background ease, and safe interpretation. That right there is your recipe for lowering the load.
So let's define this clearly. Emotional load is the total amount of work your mind and body absolutely must do to stay oriented, safe, and functional while you're experiencing emotions. And here's the kicker. It is cumulative. It's not just one bucket of stress. It's sensory load, cognitive load, social load, and control load, all piling up together on your nervous system at once.
To see this in action, our source provides a fantastic real-life application for designers: a busy pediatric clinic waiting area in Beijing. Imagine an anxious parent and a scared child sitting in a chaotic, noisy waiting room with no clear cues and rigid seating. The emotional load absolutely skyrockets because the space is forcing their nervous systems to work overtime. Now, I should mention, while our source material focuses strictly on this clinic and doesn't map out specific home or classroom setups, the underlying principle is exactly the same everywhere. Chaotic environments multiply stress, plain and simple.
Let's do a quick, punchy recap. Emotional load is cumulative. Your nervous system is constantly doing background prediction, which, costs energy. When a room forces your attention, maybe with buzzing fluorescent lights or abrupt transitions, it totally exhausts your mind. And ultimately, the meaning you assign to a space shapes how it feels. A room can feel perfectly fine to one person, but be totally overwhelming to another who just happens to be carrying a heavier emotional load. I love this memory tip to really anchor these concepts. Think of emotional load like carrying awkward groceries up steep stairs where someone keeps changing the route on you. It's not just the weight of one bag, right? It's the total clumsy burden. And forced attention? Well, that's like trying to relax while listening to a smoke alarm with a weak battery. It doesn't matter how visually beautiful the room is, that constant beeping keeps dragging your awareness back and draining your energy. Which brings us to the solution. Section 4. Concept. The holding space. A holding space relies on 3 core pillars, which are essentially 3 questions a space absolutely must answer for the person in it. Number 1, legibility.
What is happening here? Number 2, agency. Can I change anything here? And number 3, recovery. Where do I go if this is all simply too much? In plain English, a holding space acts like a supportive harness. It distributes emotional pressure without amplifying it. Legibility just means the room is easy to read. You know exactly where to sit and what's expected of you. Agency means the room gives you usable choices, like a movable chair, which instantly lowers defensiveness. And recovery means the room provides a space, like maybe a partial enclosure, where your emotional intensity can decline safely without any feelings of exposure or shame. Returning to our real-life designer example of the Beijing clinic, a designer creates a holding space here by adding clear layout zones for legibility, flexible seating for agency, and a highly visible path to a quieter edge of the room for recovery. This lets a scared child orient themselves and step aside safely. And again, while the source text doesn't explicitly map out your specific living room or your classroom, using these 3 pillars allows literally anyone to transform a room into a holding space. To summarize how these coordinate, legibility reduces uncertainty. Agency reduces helplessness. Recovery reduces sustained activation. They have to work together to form a coherent conversation. Think about it. If you remove uncertainty but don't provide any control, a person is still going to feel totally oppressed. The room has to say, hey, you are safe enough to orient, safe enough to choose, and safe enough to settle. So the crucial point is this memory tip right here. A calm space is less like a luxury lounge and way more like a well-fitted climbing harness. Just like a really skilled host at a gathering, the space doesn't magically fix your emotions. Instead, it safely catches you, and it distributes the force so you can stay safe while you do the hard work of regulating yourself. Okay, let's look at where things go wrong. Section 5. Common mistakes students make. Here are 3 common failure modes that might look calm on the surface but actually fail under stress. First up, too much softness. It's pleasant but vague, meaning people can't orient themselves. The fix? Add legibility. Second, too much control. Rigid layouts or restrictive rules actually increase a person's defensiveness. The fix there? Add agency and choice. Third, too much withdrawal. A stripped-down, completely blank room might be quiet, but it can feel emotionally cold or isolating. The fix? Add safe recovery options that balance shelter with optional human connection. Remember, low sensory intensity does not automatically equal emotional regulation. We're nearing the finish line. Section 6, Lecture Summary.
If you take absolutely nothing else away today, please remember these key points. Calm is a system, not just an aesthetic. Emotional load is the total work required to stay regulated. Spaces regulate us by shaping our thresholds, preventing stress from escalating and supporting recovery when it does. A holding space must answer, what is happening, what can be changed, and where to go. Remember, a room is always speaking to you. Make sure it says you can arrive, orient, and adjust. And finally, expert design isn't about perfect neutrality. It's about smart trade-offs. We have officially moved from asking, is this room nice, to realizing, wow, a calm room is actually doing work. Okay, students, time for the final exam. Let's test your basic recall with some easy practice questions. Can you define emotional load? What about the purpose of recovery? I'd love for you to pause the explainer right here and see if you can answer all the questions on the screen out loud. Go ahead, test yourself.
Ready to step it up? Let's move to medium difficulty with some scenario questions. Think back to our Beijing clinic example. How would you design for an anxious parent versus a bored child? Take a moment to review the scenarios on the screen and really think through your solutions based on those 3 pillars we talked about. And finally, we have our hard conceptual questions. I want to leave you with a provocative thought to carry with you today. How do spaces actually shape your emotional thresholds? Next time you walk into a room, I want you to ask yourself, is this space simply hiding my emotions, or is it actually holding them? Think about how you can apply this beautiful coherence to the spaces in your own life. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and happy designing!